Crime victims are being denied the money they're owed, not because the criminal didn't pay, but because the government kept the cash.
Now KARE 11 Investigates is tracking down these victims and getting them what's theirs. AJ Legault reports.
When you're a single mom, every penny counts.
It's $750.
For Kathleen McGears,
That's not pocket change to a single mom.
a 1999 stolen check case cleaned her out.
My bank account got drained.
The Hennepin County judge ordered the crook to pay restitution, but years passed, and as far as Kathleen knew, the thief never paid.
And then over time, I just forgot about it.
Until she got a Facebook message from KARE 11 notifying her that $450 in restitution had been paid.
I had no idea the money was sitting there.
We identified her using a list of Hennepin County court cases where restitution has been collected, but the county listed the money as unclaimed because they could not find the victim.
They should look a little bit harder for people like that.
Kathleen had moved out of the home she lived in 1999, but was still in Minnesota, in fact, still in Hennepin County, and certainly not hiding.
Makes me angry that the state didn't know. Okay, the state didn't know where I was. No, they didn't look very hard.
She's certainly not the only crime victim on Hennepin County's unclaimed list. Here are some real head-scratchers. Walgreens, Wells Fargo, the JCPenney's at the Southdale Center in Edina, Sears, and Macy's. You know, the one located at the Mall of America.
Are you a hard man to find?
No, LinkedIn, Facebook, and you were able to find me.
Kerry Townsend is a former business owner and a crime victim.
I owned a temporary help agency for 19 years.
Court records detail an elaborate scam back in 2005 by the woman in charge of Kerry's payroll. She listed her boyfriend on invoices and cashed fraudulent checks. The thief was caught, convicted, and ordered to pay restitution. Meanwhile, Kerry had to close his business in 2013.
I have had some health issues.
But still lives in the area and would love to collect the restitution he's owed.
It could be life-changing.
Turns out nearly $1,000 in restitution has been paid in Kerry's case.
Repayment for theft.
But Hennepin County claims they can't find him.
It took you, I don't know how much time, but you were able to find me.
About 5 minutes.
5 minutes, yeah, and that just astounds me. I'm on LinkedIn and Facebook and Google Plus. There's a litany of ways to do it.
He's right. That's exactly how KARE 11 found him. The super investigative technique known as the Google. Hennepin County's records list more than 1,300 cases in just 3 years where restitution has been paid, anywhere from a few bucks to 10 grand. But the county claims they cannot find the victims.
Well, we don't look for these victims by calling out the National Guard.
Hennepin County Attorney Mike Freeman's office is in charge of distributing restitution in adult cases. The Department of Community Correction and Rehabilitation handles cases where the defendant is a juvenile.
We were all surprised that KARE 11 had no problem finding quite a number of victims that had unclaimed restitution.
Well, I've always figured the Fourth Estate is pretty good at finding folks.
Freeman explained getting restitution to a big business like a chain department store can include a lot of red tape, but admits his focus is on prosecuting thousands of cases each year, not tracking down victims in old ones.
If the question is, could we do more to find that victim? Yes, we could, if we had the resources to do it. It's not the top thing on my priority list.
Freeman tells us what they do is mail the check to the victim's last known address. If it bounces back for any reason, they mark it as unclaimed. No one at the county is actually looking for the victim.
So how much money does Hennepin owe victims? From 2013 to 2015, the restitution the county collected totals $4.5 million. The portion that went unclaimed, $554,000. That's 12% of restitution failing to reach its rightful owners. But it's not just a Hennepin County problem. Statewide, the 3-year amount of unclaimed restitution jumps to more than $1.1 million.
So you're probably asking, hey, what happens to all that money? Well, the counties get to hang on to it for 3 years, and then they have to turn it over to the state, to the Crime Victims Reparations Board.
That board, overseen by the Office of Justice Programs, doesn't look for the true owners either. In fact, in this 2015 report to the legislature, they touted their increased collections, calling it a tremendous outcome. But read down a little further and you'll see it wasn't that criminals are paying back more, it was due to a large increase in unclaimed monies received from the counties.
Come on now. That's victims' money that they could use.
What the state calls a tremendous outcome, this crime victim calls a failing system.
And obviously it's not working. They need to fix the system, and they need to come up with a better way.
Well, some places have found a better way. California has an unknown victims unit that does what Carol Levin did, tracks down victims to get them their money. Now, one state lawmaker is already calling for reform based on what we uncovered. We'll have that part of the story tomorrow night on Carol 11 at 6.
So it doesn't matter if it's 15 years later, that money should still be there for you and you should be able to claim it?
Yeah, absolutely. Once restitution is listed as unclaimed, the victims are able to get it. Both Hennepin County and the state told us that if someone comes forward to claim it, it's there, but most folks don't know it's there because they're not notified.
Well, they know now.
That they do.
Right.
We should definitely be checking. And we've posted the number to call for Hennepin County right on carol11.com.
That's great. Thanks, AJ.
Thanks, AJ. Thanks for joining us. New information tonight on a Carol 11 investigation that exposed the state of Minnesota holding cash that belongs to crime victims.
Based on what we found, a state lawmaker is calling for reform. Investigative reporter AJ Legault is joining us now with an update on the story. AJ?
Yeah, Julia, Randy, what our investigation found was that over a 3-year period, the state collected more than $1 million in court-ordered restitution from convicted con artists, sex offenders, and other criminals, but kept that money after making little to no effort to find the rightful owners. A state lawmaker is now calling it a case of failing justice.
Well, that's not justice.
State Representative John Lash prosecuted criminals in Ramsey County courts for 15 years. He says Carol Levin's findings that restitution ordered by a judge and paid by the crook is not always ending up in the victim's pocket is unacceptable.
So if this is not happening, everyone should be throwing their hands up and be outraged about it.
Fraud victim Carrie Townsend certainly is.
What are you doing? You're not looking. You're keeping the money.
Carrie's case, where a former employee ripped off his business, is buried in a spreadsheet of more than 1,300 Hennepin County court actions over 3 years where restitution was collected but never paid to the victim. Anywhere from a few bucks to 10 grand listed as unclaimed because the county couldn't find victims like Carrie.
Are you a hard man to find?
No, LinkedIn, Facebook, and you were able to find me.
What Carol Levin also found is that it's not that the county tried and failed to find him. It, in fact, failed to even try. A check gets mailed to the victim's last known address. If it bounces back, it's marked as unclaimed. No one looks for the victim.
They could have easily found me.
It's the same story at the state, which ultimately receives the unclaimed restitution cash. They don't try to find the victim either. And to add insult to injury, Minnesota's Crime Victims Reparations Board, which is overseen by the Office of Justice Programs, actually bragged about it. In this 2015 report to the legislature, they touted their increased collections, calling it a tremendous outcome. But read down a little further and you'll see it wasn't that criminals are paying back more. It was due to a large increase in unclaimed monies received from the counties.
So it's not a tremendous outcome at all.
What the state labeled a tremendous outcome, our investigation found to be more than $1.1 million in just 3 years that did not go to its rightful owner.
That's wrong. The Crime Victims Reparations Board should not be taking money or accepting money that is supposed to go to someone else without at least some kind of cursory search.
Well, Representative Lash tells me he's now looking into legislation that would require the Crime Victims Reparations Board to actually conduct a search for the victims before they keep their money. And Randy and Julie, I can tell you that we very easily found dozens of victims who had restitution funds sitting there, but they had no idea that money was there for them.
So would this bill hire people to make those inquiries?
Has not flushed out the details, but it would require them to just at least do a cursory search. Really, I mean, we were Googling people.
At least it's a step in the right direction.
Absolutely, nothing is set in stone yet, but he said this was definitely an issue he called common sense and that it needed to be addressed.
Okay.